Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, depending on what time of day you're watching this. Another one of my 10-minute um, sales multiplier video series that I'm putting together and launching each and every Monday, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, with that said, today's sales multiplier tip is all about how to increase your sales revenue by 20% with a specific kind of cross sell. Now, I want to start today by just sharing with you quickly how I stumbled across cross selling. It was very early in my career, and to give you an example of how early I was selling Pontiacs at a Chevrolet GM Pontiac dealer. Now, if you're not aware, they haven't made Pontiacs since 2010. And so I was selling them, so it's quite some time ago, actually. But nonetheless, what tended to happen was here I am selling these Pontiacs, and I sold a Pontiac Vibe was actually the vehicle to a young lady, and that lady was looking for a few additional items to go with the car. So after we went through and arranged or organized the deal, and she was happy with the numbers and all the terms, she said to me, Am I able to get some sort of extended warranty plan to go with this car? Now, typically, that's not something in that dealership at that time that I would sell, but I could sell. But it kind of caught me off guard. And I said, you want the warranty? She said, yeah. And for as long as I can get it, like what's the maximum mileage, maximum term? Nonetheless, I went through her options with her. She didn't challenge me on them, didn't challenge the price. I re-verified that's what she wanted from the deal. That's what she was looking for, and sold the car with the extended warranty. I saw her many times after that day because I was selling cars in my local community, and she was quite pleased. So it was an eye-opener for me because it was a cross-sell that I hadn't really considered offering people up until that point. I was still relatively new in car sales. And it opened my eyes to the revenue opportunity because that warranty I sold her, there was a lot of revenue opportunity in it, not only for my commission, but also for the company. And she was pleased with it. So nonetheless, that's where the whole idea of cross-selling came into play for me. Now, for those of you watching this live stream, I'm not really sure what you're selling, obviously. You could be selling a product, could be selling a service. But before we get too far into this, let me just clarify for some of you what I'm referring to when I say cross-sell, because I find a lot of times sales professionals can tend to get confused by these. So I'll give you a simple definition, okay? This is my definition, by the way. So an upsell is something that you're upselling the customer or client to something that has additional features or benefits to the original product. So let me give you an example. Let's say you're selling a commercial insurance policy and you're able to add on some liability coverage that they believe would be beneficial. So you're taking that policy and you're saying, well, you can buy the commercial insurance policy at this rate, and then additional upsells might be to add some liability insurance, still within the policy, still insurance, but you're adding to the policy, to the coverage, and therefore to the price, right? So there's an upsell. Or it could just be, we're going to reduce your premiums, right? So to reduce the premiums brings the price up a bit, but you have to pay less if there's a claim. That's an example of an upsell. So there's some examples. Now, if you're on the product side, let's say you're selling capital equipment, okay? An upsell might be, I'm selling you this piece of equipment, but we've added some additional widgets, some flashing lights, some reflective tape, bigger tires, whatever the case might be. And that's an upsell. It's additional features that we've added to this. That'll cost you more, but ultimately the intention is to give you more benefit from the investment. So there's upsells, right? Pretty straightforward. Now, when it comes to cross-sells, a little bit different. A cross-sell is selling them something that's related to what they've originally purchased or are looking at purchasing, but it's different. So go back to the insurance example, okay? Maybe I'm selling you some liability insurance, but ultimately I can offer you membership to an insurance group that we have for people in a certain threshold of buying commercial insurance. And it's a networking group where you get to attend certain events, network with your peers, right? And give me an example. So that membership would be a cross-sell. You're coming in for this insurance, but because you're looking at this insurance, you'd also be a good candidate for this thing over here, which is very different. It's membership to a group of people, nothing really to do directly with insurance other than the people in the group are buying it. Capital equipment, maybe I'm going to sell you, like the example I shared, a warranty. Maybe I'm going to sell you a set service package, right? So that's more of a service that I'm going to sell you. It's not really related directly to the equipment, although it complements the equipment itself. So think of a cross sell, the way I'm talking about them today at least, is something that's complementary to what you're selling, but it's not really improving the additional features of what it is you're selling. It's something very different, but it still complements. Okay, so there's a quick definition. And some of you are saying, Shawn, look, I know this, I get it, but I do a lot of training with sales teams, and a lot of sales professionals get confused on the difference. Okay, so I wanted to clarify that. Now, that said, let's go through a quick little exercise here. So a study from McKinsey suggested recently that if you do cross sells effectively, you can increase your sales revenue by up to 20%. So here's what I want to suggest to you. If you take a look at what you're selling, the cross sell options may be very clear. They may be laid out for you. Somebody might have said, here's the products or here's the services we're selling and here's the cross sells. But if that's not been done for you, you should do it. And the reason why is, just like my story of going back when I was selling that car, I knew warranties existed and I knew I could sell a warranty. It just wasn't obvious to me that she might want it. Why? Because early on in the conversation, I didn't ask the right questions. You see, a cross sell or even an upsell is all about the questions in the conversation before you get to the proposal stage or before you get to the quote stage. What I want to be doing all along the conversation is first testing what other interests might you have? What would you find value in that would improve the experience of the product or service you're buying, right? What else is important to you? So I'm just giving you different ways to position the question. And when I uncover that, I can start to plant seeds. So in my book, The Sales Multiplier Formula, I talk about specifically about cross-selling, how to set up a cross-sell. And it's all about planting seeds along the conversation. So I'm asking you questions. So here's the scenario. We're discussing commercial insurance coverage. I'll go back to the earlier example I shared. And you say something to me to the effect of, yeah, well, this commercial insurance would be great. I really wish, though, that I could talk to others. I don't know if we're getting the right coverage. I don't know if the coverage we have, if I should buy liability. So first off, there's a trigger that, okay, liability insurance, maybe we can offer that as well. But if I did have that little organization of maybe executives, right, a membership that I could offer, I might say, well, look, there's a little group of some of our clients that we bring together. It is a paid group, but they get together from a standpoint of looking at their insurance needs, discussing future changes, ways to improve their insurance coverage, and really to help each other. If you'd be interested in discussing that membership, that's something we can look at a little bit later, or we can discuss it now. So there's an example of, hey, I've got this thing that's a cross sell. I'm just going to make mention of it based on what I hear, and what I hear is based on the questions I asked. So if you really want to position cross sells, I'm going to give you the steps to go through to really try this out for yourself. Step one, know what your cross sell options are. And that really starts with take a look at the main products you sell. You can look historically and say, what have the people that have bought this product or this service, what else have they bought that could have been a cross sell or that was a cross sell? You may have made some cross sells in the past. And then you make a list. Here's my main products, or here's my main services. Here's the different cross sells for each that match up well, that add additional value. And once you've got that list, now it's solidified. Then you have to consider, okay, so in my dialogue with my prospect, right, in the discovery dialogue, where I'm trying to learn a little bit more about their objectives, their priorities, what matters, why they're talking to me, their budget, all of those things, I can ask some questions relative to whether any of these cross sells that I've identified might be of importance to them. So what are one or two questions I could ask to lay this out? You ask the questions. If they respond positively, now you've got, right, the opportunity to discuss that further. So you've got to have some questions early on. And again, back up. We've got to know what our cross-sell options are. Then we've got to have some questions to really put them in front of the prospect to see if they might be of interest. If they are, we've got to then position examples, stories, situations that are similar to theirs that we can share to validate during the conversation after that initial question that this is the right thing for them. So let me give you an example how this works. We've identified that, and I'll give you, maybe we'll use a different example here to make this simple. Let's say we're selling a piece of equipment and we've identified a good cross-sell is warranty. Keep it simple, right? So we've got this warranty that we're going to sell that's an additional service that is a cross-sell to the equipment that we're going to sell to the prospect. So in doing so, what we really want to do is we ask early on some questions. So in the discovery conversation, we might say something like, this piece of equipment that you're looking at has a fantastic reputation in the field. It's been time tested, is that the right phrase? By many of our customers for years. happy to connect you with some of them to speak about their own experience if you'd like, when the time is right. But before we get there, let me ask you a question. How long do you plan to use this for? Or how many hours do you plan to put on this piece of equipment? So then the person on the other side says, oh, I think we're going to use it for as long as we can, maybe even 10 years. Say, well, look, something to consider is the basic warranty covers 5 years. If warranty is something you want to consider, and we can talk more about it later, I can share some information with you. Just keep in mind that warranty is cheapest when you're investing in it early on, like at the point of investment in the equipment, rather than later on, right? So there's an example of something I share, and then I would go on and give an example. I had a client recently that they had bought a similar piece of equipment. 2 years after the equipment, they had a breakdown. It wasn't the fault of the equipment. It wasn't a quality issue. It was just something that actually happened when they were using it. Again, you have to be able to describe that. And as a result, they had to go back and make some changes. It cost them a lot. If they would have had the warranty, it would have covered them. So there's an example. And then if I get in the proposal stage or the quote stage and they're still interested, I would put that as an option. So we're beyond, once again, my 10 minutes, but it's because I wanted to not only talk about the importance of cross-sells, but give you the steps that you can use to come up with your own cross-sells so you can start to offer them as part of the regular offering that you have for your prospects, right? Whether you're selling services like insurance, financial services, or whether you're selling a product of some kind. It really doesn't matter. Step one, you've got to know what they are. Don't wait until you're in the conversation, then try and come up with something. Have them listed out, be clear on them, then have some questions that you ask so you can flush out if any of them are interesting to your prospects. And then if it is, and they bite, right? They say, yeah, that might be something I'm curious about. Then you can describe it a bit. And more importantly, what you can do is take that as an example. Use a story or example of somebody who should have maybe purchased that cross-sell and didn't. So you'll have to think up what that is. Share that with them. That gives social proof. And then from there, what you can do is go forward and include in your proposal the actual cross-sell or upsell. So there you have it. That is one of the ways you can actually increase your sales revenue through cross-sells using those steps. Now, I'm going to leave you with one last tip, because I promised you in the title of this that you would increase your cross-sells by 20% with this specific example. Take your existing product or service that you sell today and identify that one thing that the majority of your customers in the past have invested in, either at the time that they purchased your product or service or later on. Even if you've got 1,000 clients and 6 of them have bought this one thing, but there's been nothing else that anybody's invested in near as much as this, that becomes your top cross-sell that you include in every conversation. So by looking back historically at trends as far as what customers have purchased, that is a cross-sell, which again, it may not be the majority of your sales, but there will be some out. That becomes a cross-sell that you lead with, and you lead with in every conversation using the steps I've shared with you today to try and generate more revenue, more cross-sells, and ultimately increase your sales revenue. The last thing I'll mention is this. Studies have shown that for customers that you can offer a cross-sell to, where you're really building a package for them rather than selling them just a service, right? You're giving them something that's more encompassing. Those customers tend to stick around longer. They're a little more loyal to you because ultimately the way they see it is, hey, you're here for them. You're not just looking at trying to sell them this policy or this piece of equipment. You're actually looking at them and their needs holistically and offering other things that can complement and ensure they're protected, safe. They've got additional features, security, whatever the case might be. So go through those steps, use them to identify your cross-sells, ask some questions about them, position some examples or stories to validate, and then start to generate more revenue in your sales with cross-sells. Hope you've enjoyed this. Another one of my 10-minute sales multiplier weekly tips right here live each and every Monday, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Last but not least, before we go, I'll mention to you again what I mentioned in all these previous videos. These tips come directly from my latest book, The Sales Multiplier Formula. I'll show you what it looks like so you know. There it is. So if you are somebody who enjoys reading books, The Sales Multiplier Formula might be something that you're interested in. You can grab it on Amazon and all great places that books are sold. If you want a personalized copy, reach out to me. Happy to discuss sending you one. And until next time, let's get out there and go sell something. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.